When we think of medieval torture, images of brutality and savagery often come to mind, but I don't think people understand just how precise medieval torture really was. It wasn't simply about inflicting pain, it was a grim application of knowledge, a dark art honed over centuries. The dungeons weren't just places of suffering, they were laboratories of pain, where techniques were refined and perfected. The torturers themselves were not just brutes. They were, in a twisted sense, practitioners of a macabre science. It wasn't random violence, it was almost scientific. Each instrument, each method was carefully chosen and applied with a specific purpose in mind. The rack, the thumbscrews, the Iron Maiden, these were not just tools of terror. They were instruments of precision, designed to inflict maximum pain while carefully controlling the damage to the body. Think of it as a gruesome form of engineering, where the human body was the subject of relentless experimentation. What's something people don't know about medieval torture? It's easy to imagine torture as a chaotic outburst of rage, but the reality was far more calculated. The process was often ritualized with specific steps and procedures. The torturers consulted manuals, shared knowledge, and even debated the most effective techniques. It was designed to keep you alive and conscious through unimaginable pain. This wasn't about a quick death, it was about extracting information, breaking the will, and forcing a confession. The goal was to push the victim to the very edge of endurance, to the point where they would say anything to make the pain stop. The torturers understood the limits of the human body and mind, and they exploited those limits with chilling precision. Medieval torture wasn't just random cruelty, it was a calculated process, following detailed manuals and using specialized tools. These manuals, often kept secret and passed down through generations, provided detailed instructions on how to inflict pain most effectively. They described the specific techniques for using each instrument, the pressure points to target, and the psychological tactics to employ. It was a dark and disturbing body of knowledge, but it was knowledge nonetheless. Everything was meant to extract a confession, sometimes any confession, while keeping you alive for as long as possible. The confession was the ultimate goal, the prize that justified all the suffering. But it wasn't just about obtaining the truth. It was about control, about breaking the spirit of the accused. And by keeping the victim alive, the torturers could prolong the process, maximizing the psychological impact and ensuring that the confession was as complete and convincing as possible. The entire process was a horrifying blend of physical and mental torment, designed to crush the human spirit. Imagine the heavy door slamming shut behind you. The room is cold, stone, echoing with distant drips of water. You're tied to a chair or maybe suspended by your wrists, stretching your body in ways it was never meant to endure. The torturer isn't a wild-eyed maniac. He's a trained professional, maybe even wearing a uniform. He starts with questions. If you're silent, the tools come out. Iron pincers, ropes, racks. Each device has a purpose. The rack, for example, was designed to slowly pull your joints apart. The pain is constant, almost rhythmic. It's not about quick agony. It's about breaking your mind, one slow notch at a time. If you faint, they wake you. Sometimes with a splash of water, sometimes with a slap, sometimes with cold air. You're never allowed to sink into unconsciousness for long. The goal isn't death. It's confession. Sometimes, fire is an unwelcome guest in the interrogation chamber. It's not just a source of light or warmth, it's a tool, a weapon wielded with calculated cruelty. Iron boots, heavy and unforgiving, are heated in the forge until they glow with an infernal light, the metal screaming as it surrenders to the flames. Imagine the heat radiating outwards, the anticipation building with each passing moment as the iron approaches its agonizing purpose. Or perhaps it's metal plates, cold and unyielding, clamped around your legs, promising a different kind of torment, a slow, crushing pressure amplified by the searing heat. The choice of method speaks volumes about the torturer's intent, each technique designed to break the spirit as much as the body. The pain inflicted is not a fleeting sensation, it's a deep, lasting agony that burrows into the very core of your being. It's a pain that lingers long after the iron has cooled and the flames have died down, a constant reminder of the ordeal you've endured. Even the air itself begins to transform, becoming thick with the acrid stench of burned flesh, a horrifying perfume that clings to the nostrils and invades the senses. Fear, raw and primal, permeates every corner of the room, mingling with the musty odor of old stone, creating a suffocating atmosphere of dread and despair. The sounds too become distorted, the crackling of the fire, the clang of metal, the whispered threats, all blending into a cacophony of torment that assaults the mind as relentlessly as the body. Medieval manuals, disturbingly detailed, meticulously described each step of these brutal procedures. They were not mere improvisations of cruelty but carefully codified techniques passed down through generations of torturers. From the selection of the most vulnerable pressure points to the precise method of winding the ropes, every detail was considered and documented. The manuals offered guidance on how to maximize pain while minimizing the risk of death, ensuring that the victim remained conscious and responsive for as long as possible. These were not just instructions, they were recipes for suffering, meticulously crafted and coldly executed. The act of writing itself becomes a chilling testament to the calculated nature of the torture. The torturers, with a chilling detachment, recorded your every word, every whimper, every desperate plea. The process was not solely about inflicting pain. It was as much about extracting information, about breaking your will and forcing you to reveal your secrets. But beyond the acquisition of knowledge, there was also the element of spectacle and control. The torture chamber was a stage, and the victim was the unwilling performer in a macabre drama designed to instill fear and obedience in the wider population. The screams echoed beyond the stone walls, serving as a stark reminder of the consequences of defiance. The meticulous record-keeping served not only as a tool for future interrogations, but also as a testament to the power of the state and the futility of resistance. The torturer was not just an interrogator, they were a symbol of absolute authority, wielding pain and fear as instruments of control. Some tools like the pear of anguish were inserted and then expanded, tearing tissue slowly. Others, like the strapado, suspended you by the wrists until your shoulders dislocated. Each method was chosen for its ability to prolong suffering, without killing. Torture sessions might last for hours, sometimes days. You'd be returned to your cell, only to be brought back again. In the annals of history, where justice often wore a cruel mask, confessions were the lifeblood of power. The methods employed to extract these admissions of guilt were as varied as the crimes themselves, ranging from subtle psychological manipulation to outright physical brutality. Yet, amidst this grim tapestry of coercion, one truth remained constant. The human spirit, though resilient, has its breaking point. Most people, faced with relentless pressure and the specter of unimaginable suffering, confessed long before the end, sometimes to things they'd never done just for a chance at mercy, a fleeting respite from the torment. They would admit to anything just to make it stop. The weight of false confessions hangs heavy in the air, a testament to the dark corners of human nature and the lengths to which power will go to maintain its grip. Within the vast and complex history of the Catholic Church, a history spanning millennia and encompassing both profound acts of charity and regrettable episodes of oppression, there exists a chapter dedicated to the pursuit of truth, or at least, what was perceived as such. In their zealous quest to root out heresy and maintain doctrinal purity, the Church sanctioned various methods of interrogation, some of which pushed the boundaries of human endurance. There was one device so effective, so insidious in its simplicity, that the Catholic Church eventually banned its use. Not because it was inhumane, though it certainly was, but because it worked so well that people confessed to anything, true or not. The confessions became meaningless, a flood of false admissions that muddied the waters of justice and undermined the very purpose of the interrogations. The Church, in a rare moment of self-reflection, recognized the inherent flaw in this method and sought to distance itself from its devastating consequences. That device, a testament to the power of persistent subtle torment, was the water torture. It wasn't about inflicting immediate agonizing pain, but rather about eroding the victim's mental fortitude through relentless, monotonous assault. It involved slowly pouring drops of water onto the forehead, each drop a tiny hammer blow against the walls of sanity, or forcing water into the lungs, simulating the agonizing sensation of drowning. The constant, unending sensation, the anticipation of the next drop, the feeling of suffocation, all combined to create an unbearable psychological pressure. It was a war of attrition waged against the mind, a slow, agonizing descent into madness. The rhythmic drip, drip, drip became a symphony of despair, a constant reminder of the victim's helplessness. The unending nature of the torture broke even the strongest minds, reducing them to quivering wrecks desperate for release, willing to confess to anything regardless of its veracity, just to escape the relentless torment. The water torture stands as a chilling example of how the simplest of elements, when applied with calculated cruelty, can become an instrument of unimaginable suffering. By the end, your spirit would be as broken as your body, The torturers believed they were saving your soul, extracting the truth for the greater good. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, remember, even in the darkest chapters of history, pain was a tool, and breaking the human spirit was once considered a holy duty. Sleep well, and may your dreams stay far away from the stone chambers of the past.